As always, this episode of the Talking Walls podcast is brought to you by Green King Sport, where football is more than a game. Why not make Green King your go-to destination for this season's final stretch? With delicious food and refreshing beverages, every single one of Wolves' televised fixtures is on show at their venues. And with 900 sport venues across the UK, there's a chance as one just walking distance from where you are. And watching football is way better with your friends and family. So why not get the squad together for some title showdowns, the race for European qualification, and nail-biting relegation 6-pointers. So don't forget to download the Green King Sport app to enjoy exclusive competitions and discounts whenever there's a game on. Yes, everybody, welcome back to the Talking Walls podcast. We're here for a brand new episode. We've had the penultimate away game of the season against Manchester City, which we'll be talking about today, alongside much more Walls news and gossip. Alongside me today, we've got Mr. Jordan Russell. Jordan, how you keeping, man?
I'm all good, mate. How are you?
Well, I mean, you sound brilliant, mate, to be fair, don't you?
Right.
you've been up to much this bank holiday, mate?
Mate, just a lot of DIY. Well, if anyone's on YouTube, they'll see I played golf on Saturday morning actually, and I went out in a rain jacket, took it off after the second hole, and got a bit sunburnt as well because of the weather. So, but other than that, yeah, just doing some DIY, painting and decorating, all that sort of stuff. So, redoing the bedroom. So that's why for the second week in a row, I'm doing it off the sofa.
It's all right, mate, I'm sure. Yeah, bank holidays are perfect for the old decorating or gardening or sign of a proper adult, though, that isn't it? Married life now, mate, that is. So
it's you get excited about hoovers and all this sort of and what bed frames and all this sort of crap now. So it's it is what it is.
Yeah, alongside us today, he's getting his second cap for the podcast. It's Mr. Sam Beacon. Sam, how's it going, man?
Yeah, all good. Yeah, feels good to be back.
No worries.
I'm no M Cooper rights, but we'll do our best.
You've been up to much this bank holiday, mate?
Yeah, man. Same as Joe. To be fair, just golf on Saturday. Didn't get sunburnt. I was lucky, to be fair. Sunday washed cars. So yeah, exhilarating bank holiday for me. But yeah, exactly. I had a chilled Monday though, so it's been nice.
Yeah, so I didn't make the true. I don't know if any of you boys went to City in the end on Saturday, but I'm sort of part of me's grateful that I watched it on the box on Saturday, and it was a disastrous game. But chilled out one the last couple of days, but getting ready for the Molineux match representing Torquay, also getting all the cardio in as well, doing lots of treadmill runs at the moment. So that's why I'm in sort of quite a sporty, chilled out look today, to be fair. And I need a haircut. That's why I'm wearing a cap. It's quite a rare thing anyway. So, lads, I've sort of alluded to it there. City away. One very much to forget, Jord. A 5-1 defeat. But we'll touch on the lineup. Quite an interesting one. Obviously, we know the situation with Santi Bueno, who was back in the squad, but had a slight knock, obviously, still. So it was the back three of Totti, Kilman and Semedo. Cunha and Juan keeping their places. And obviously, keeping Aït-Nouri on the right-hand side, so sort of ditching the Semedo Doc experiment that he tried against Luton. Thoughts on the lineup? I mean, Bueno and Jean-Ric Nabelgard are on the bench. No Neto, despite him being back in full training, according to Gary O'Neill. Do you think Gary got this wrong on Saturday with this lineup, or what do you think he could have changed to make the scoreline a little bit more appealing?
I think, he could have played a couple, he could make changes here and there with personnel, I guess, but it was exactly what I called out on the pod the week before. It's a very, very good team, arguably the best team in the world, chasing down a title versus a team who, quite frankly, are on the beach with nothing to play for, very little to play for.
Yeah.
It was everything I expected, to be honest with you. I thought they'd beat us handsomely. I thought it'd be by at least 3 goals. And yeah, it's just one of those things, really. It was very, very easy for them, I thought, especially in that first half. Made it far too easy for them. Doesn't help when you get in, penalty decisions like we did for that first one. It's just utterly, again, Craig Pawson just give it on the fact that Kovacic and Foden have screamed loudly in his face. He was never given it. He was shaking his head when he first did it. And again, like I've said it many times, and I'm literally sick of it. I can't wait for the season to be over now. But the officiating in this league is fucking awful, and they need to just sort themselves out. It's so bad. And I'll level with you that as soon as I saw the penalty bit get given, turn the TV off. I had to go and fetch some things from Screwfix. Went and fetched them, and then I watched the 30 minutes highlights earlier today because I just couldn't be arsed with it. I'm just so put off by football at the minute, so put off by the officiating and the standard of it. It's already going to be difficult going to the Etihad and trying to get anything there from a team that are chasing the title. But you just want a level playing field, and just crap decisions like that. It's not a level playing field. It's never ever a penalty in a million years. It's just so bad, so poor.
Yeah. I mean, every single goal, pretty much, Sam has probably got a talking point, so we'll probably break them down one by one. But
Yep.
like George said there, I think the penalty decision sort of set the tone for the rest of the game, really. And you felt when that decision went City's game, it's probably not going to be Wolves' evening, to be honest. Ball comes in, Aït-Nouri only got eyes for the ball. It's just a coming together. Vardy pretty much runs into Aït-Nouri, doesn't he? And like George said, there's a clip of Pawson shaking his head as soon as 2 or 3 City players surround him. That's when he sort of pressured into giving the penalty. And frustratingly, with the way VAR works, I suppose they are going to side with the referee in this situation because as such there is contact. It's not a clear and obvious error by Craig Pawson, but it's harsh, isn't it? Really, and I think if it's an old gold shirt and a Ryan Aït-Nouri goes down the other end through a challenge from Vardy, I don't think we get given that penalty.
No, definitely not. I mean, yeah. So Aït-Nouri, like you said, only had eyes for the ball. Vardy comes in, clatters into him, admittedly trying to get a shot, fair play to him. But it wasn't, Guardiola, one, didn't appeal it. The only two that appealed were unfortunately, the 2 guys closest to the ref. Unconscious bias, we talk about it all the time. I think it's just, a gentle reminder that no matter how hard you try, you're never going to get the decisions that the big boys will get. And like you said, if it was down the other end, and it was Aït-Nouri that got clattered into, one, I don't think would have got it, like you said, but it will also be because we don't appeal enough. You'll never see Wolves players in the ear of the ref like that, ever. And I think it's because we've been, had our hands burnt so many times by, Lamina running over to the referee, getting that second yellow card last year. Just things like that. We're just scared of them now because they're so kind of, so quick to get their cards out. You can't do anything about it because the moment you go up into the ref's face, it's game over for us. So difficult one to try and appeal, but yeah, it's never going to get that overturned for a million years because it's the old boys club.
Talking about cards as well, before I forget, Matt Cooper, happy birthday to him, by the way. That's why he's not on the pod today. Unbelievable shout with the bookings. You know what? Prior to kickoff, someone had messaged me saying, "Have you seen João Gomez is 3-1 to get booked today?" I was like, flipping it. Lamina was higher odds than that. So Matt went João Gomez. Did he go João Gomez?
Boobs and Semedo won it.
Boubacar and Semedo, and all 3 came in. And Lamina got one as well. Yeah. Unbelievable. And he put a tenner on for 800 plus quid. So I to be fair, his missus put an Instagram story up. They're out on Saturday night, and I messaged him. I said, I hope he's treating you to his winnings. And she put, what winnings? I was like, shit. So I messaged him and I said, mate, does your missus know that? And he goes, yeah, she's winding you up. Don't worry. I was like, thank God for that. Like, I thought I got him in a bit of trouble there. But I mean, fantastic bit by Matt. But yeah, the VAR frustration continues. We had quite an in-depth conversation about it on last week's pod, which is still going to be relevant if you wanted to go back and listen to it. But I'm sure, and I'm hoping this summer there's serious sort of conversations to be had. I know they're trying to do things to change, but I'm sure we'll be here next week, and I'm sure we'll be here on the final game of the season, and I'm sure there will be a conversation at some point about VAR as well. Second goal, Jord, Haaland doubled his tally. I got a little bit of stick for this one, and I do hold my hands up. I think I was very, very, very harsh on Nelson Semedo on this one. Cunha loses the ball originally. Ball comes in. Haaland's got quite a bit of space, but the leap's unbelievable to head across goal and into the back of the net. On immediate viewing, because Semedo was the closest defender to him, I thought, flipping it. Semedo again getting beaten at the back post. And honestly, I still believe Semedo's got to be a bit closer to him to at least make it a little bit more difficult. But I don't think in a million years Semedo's going to win the header. And it's still an unbelievable goal, isn't it, by Erling Haaland?
Yeah, he's just a freak, isn't he? He's got these abilities about him that make him one of the best players in the world. I know that Roy Keane says he's a League Two footballer, and I think his hold-up play and his general all-round play isn't the best, but he's lethal in the box. And it's the hardest thing to do in football is put the ball on the back of the net, and he does that better than anyone for me. So yeah, I did see your tweet, but again, I couldn't really comment or back you or anything without seeing the replay. And I watched the 30 minutes begrudgingly this morning of the game, and yeah, I think you got it wrong, mate. To be honest,
Yeah.
I
held my hands
think
up quite
Haaland jumped to I think Haaland was that jump. He must be about 9 foot in the air. To be fair,
Oh, yeah.
when he's actually collecting the ball, it's he's a freak of nature. He's got freakish abilities, and I really like watching him. I just think, again, I think his all-round play will improve. I understand some of the critics, like Roy Keane's probably going a little bit too harsh on him when he's saying as a League Two footballer, but actually, he's just raw and he's robotic. He's deadly, and he just I mean, the fact he scored 4 against us, it was 3, wasn't it? The
Half-time.
last.
Oh,
Well,
sorry.
obviously he had to by half time, but he got a hat trick against the Etihad last year as well. And
Yeah.
I know people have said about Kilman and Totti as well. We might get onto them a little bit later on, but when he's in that sort of form, and Man City are on that sort of form, you've got no chance. I don't care who you are.
Yeah. He was actually. I mean, he's the Premier League top goal scorer, so he hasn't been quiet. But I think when you compare him to last season, he hasn't been at his best. But I think the only consolation for me on Saturday was that I captained Erling Haaland on my fantasy team, as I'm sure quite a few people listening to the podcast did, to be fair. But I think you're right, Jord. It was like I held my hands up straight away about the Semedo thing. There were people in the comments saying, I think you've got this wrong. And I sort of, when I watched it back, I was like, okay, maybe I'm being harsh. And I reasoned with them. There were 1 or 2 just sending me personal insults for no apparent reason because I put one wrong opinion out. But, I suppose that's Twitter for you anyway. But yeah, the penalty as well, Sam. I mean, I think Haaland's done brilliantly here because he knows Semedo's right behind him. And he just keeps nudging his body right in front of Semedo because he knows I'm either going to score here or I'm going to get clipped, one of the two. So he's really clever to win the penalty and obviously puts it away for his hat trick as well.
Yeah. The funny thing about that was, and everyone was picking up on it on Twitter, so he got nicked, and he fell, and I thought that's an obvious pen. He's nowhere near the ball for one. And then Haaland sits down and gets back up and laughs about it, and then there's a little high five interaction with Semedo. I was like, "Oh, you got me there." So I was like, "Has he got the ball? Has he actually won it there?" And then so it made me kind of second guess. But I guess Haaland just thought these are so shit. I'm going to score 3 or 4 anyway, so it doesn't really matter if I'm going to, if I get this pen. So yeah, not much Semedo could do. I think he went in running behind him, must have thought, well, he's going to stick this away. We're going to do something. The only saving grace was it was in the box, and he attempted to play the ball, so it was a yellow rather than a red. But it's one a tough one, but not much. I can't really put him at fault. But yeah, I can't really put him at fault. But at the same time, yeah. To be fair, he's the only guy who's fast enough to try and get back anyway. There's a reason they leave him on the halfway line for corners and stuff, but he's just not quick enough to catch Haaland, who is.
Yeah, I mean, it's frustrating. I mean, you go at half time against Manchester City 3-0 down, you probably think we've got no chance. But I don't know why. Right after Hwang got that goal, I thought, here we go. Get another goal here. It might cause a bit of an upset. George Jean-Ric Bellegarde came on. It's been a long time since you've seen him. Again, I think he's still got a lot of Wolves fans to try and convince because he's had a mixed season. Obviously, he's had some good spells, had some frustrating spells. Not really been played in position. Obviously, had the injuries, but he whipped in a really decent ball. Edison's nowhere near it, to be fair. I'm not too sure what Edison's doing. But Hwang's there, right place at the right time. Had a few people comment about Hwang's performance again because he hasn't been brilliant. I don't think he was all right against Luton, to be fair. But there's been a few games this season where he's not been brilliant, but just seems to be the right place at the right time, which is sometimes what you need from a striker in the Premier League. And he gets that goal. And like I said, I think I was thinking, here we go. But nice for us to actually get the ball in the box, Jordan. Again, Hwang on the spot, right place, right time.
Yeah, but he's just got a knack for it again himself, to be honest with you. And I think, again, someone who I think his all-round game isn't fantastic, Hwang, but I think when he's asked to play on instinct or when he's in the box, he's a different beast in himself as well. So, took the finish really, really well. I think to go back to what you're saying there about John Bellegarde, I think I'm a big fan. I think there's a lot of Wolves fans who, have got negative views on him or opinions on him from being played as a false nine.
Yeah,
He's back to goal. And And actually, I think his debut against Liverpool, I think his second home performance against Spurs, they were both really, really good games where he was getting the ball from deep, driving, dribbling with the ball. And we brought him as that sort of player, really. He was a winger who could play inside a little bit. And he was being played completely out of position. Obviously had a few niggles and stuff as well. And I think there's a genuine footballer there. I think there's a very, very good player there. There's a reason why Chelsea didn't want us to do business with Strasbourg in the summer is because I think, they signed about 70 players this summer and the window before, but it was someone that they didn't want to lose very quickly or very, very cheaply to a Premier League rival. But no, I think he's a very good footballer and we'll see the best of him next season, I'm sure.
I hope so as well. I think so. We've seen it with a few players. Cunha's one example that I think I might have used a week or so ago. Taking him 6 months or so to adapt to the Premier League and again kicked on a lot more. And I'm hoping the same for Jean-Brick Nabel. Got a full pre-season because he joined us quite late, didn't he? Get a full pre-season out of him and we'll see what happens next year as well. But Sam, when I was rubbing my hands together before I actually sort of sat down to calm down, the ball's in the back of the net again, and this one's Haaland again for his fourth and his final goal of the game. Haaland, George was talking about him earlier being such a beast and, almost robotic. The first touch isn't fantastic, but he still manages to bring it down and still manages to use Kilman to bend it round into the far post. Do you think Kilman could do a little bit better for this one? Because gives Haaland a bit of space, or do you just think it's individual brilliance by Erling Haaland?
Haaland is not that brilliant with the ball at his feet.
Yeah.
I think there's many a Premier League centre back who could have dealt with that situation. One of which being Craig Dawson, as we saw in the previous game of the season, just stuck to him like glue, didn't give him an ounce of room. But Kilman, and that's probably one of his criticisms from my perspective, is that he is too passive, hugely too way too passive in the wrong moments as well. He's immensely aggressive when the ball's coming into the striker and he's charging up to the halfway line and meeting them halfway and right in the back of them. That's fine, but you need to do it at the other end as well. So when the ball comes down to Haaland and his first touch isn't great and he just backs off him, and I know Haaland's this strong guy, but Kilman's he's not a mouse, is he? He's 6'4", and he can put himself about if he wants to. He's not that slow. And it wasn't a running race. It was just a game of, can I get close enough so you can't get shot off and have to lay it off instead? And he didn't. And Haaland showed what he hasn't done hugely in his two seasons in the Prem. Bent it on his favoured foot, yes, but past Sarr, and I don't think Sarr was getting close. It was side netting. I don't think many keepers would have got close. It was a great finish. You got to hold your hands up and say that's best striker in the world right there. But yeah, I think Kilman could have done better, and I think Dawson would have done better. So it's a shame that we don't have him. But yeah, just it's one of the areas I'll definitely want to kind of look at in the summer, because I saw a tweet about it and I completely agreed. I'm not sure who it was from, but if we want to progress like people want us to, we cannot ignore the centre backs, because I think having our Totti and Kilman as our best two centre-backs is not a combination for a top 8, top 7 team. We need someone stronger. It's just a matter of if and when, hopefully.
I'm sure we'll might have a discussion. I'm not too sure if there's any questions about that. I'm sure we'll continue talking about that. I think you're right. Dawson's been a big miss. Just defends the area really well. And I think a big part of the reason why we won and beat Manchester City at Molineux was because of Dawson on Haaland. And there was talk and people saying, is this, the best defensive performance we've seen against Erling Haaland, because he did not have a sniff all of that game. It was fantastic. And I think obviously Dawson's not had, he's had spells this season where he's been good, had spells where he's been a little bit frustrating, but I do think we've missed him. Obviously Santi Bueno's come in and slotted in quite well, but I think he was again a big miss. And I think, look, I'm not saying we would have beat City on Saturday, but I think with a natural centre half there, it could have been a slightly, more respectable result. But yeah, we'll have to see. I'm surprised Bueno didn't start if he's on the bench. Santi Bueno, if he's on the bench, surely try and get some minutes.
The annoying thing for me was, as we saw with the previous game against City this season, the central centre back has one job to do. In a game like that, he has one job to do. And I know Semedo's not a natural centre-back, but you've got 5 at the back for a reason. One of them, and the central centre-back, as we saw with Dawson, is to just pin yourself like glue to Haaland, and it worked. But Kilman, he's got this tendency to, I don't know whether it's tactical. I can't just shit on him because whether it's a choice of his or whether it's tactical. But he goes wandering, as they all do, and it just leaves gaps everywhere. And one thing you cannot leave City when they're at their best is gaps. And I don't think they were at their best, but we certainly made them look like they were at their best.
Yeah. Talking about gaps, that pretty much sums up the final goal as well, Jord. It was a very easy finish for Alvarez, who'd just come off the bench, to be fair. He had so much time, so much space, and he just sort of slotted it past Saar. But that pretty much summed up Wolves' performance. And, just, I don't know, we just weren't at our best on Saturday. What do you think needs to change, George? I mean, City are a different animal, especially when they're chasing the title, as you said at the start. What do you think needs to change before Saturday? You'd hope there's players such as Santi Bueno will come back to full fitness. I assume he comes straight back into the team.
Yeah, I think so. Maybe. I think again, I don't think you can read a lot into it. And I saw a tweet online about basically calling Gary O'Neill out a little bit for the fact we've won 1 in 8, is it, or something like that. And again, if City's the game where you're going to go, oh, actually, you know what, should there be pressure on the manager, then I've got no idea how long you've been watching football for, because it's just fucking ridiculous. There's a lot that should change. If I'm honest with you, there's a lot of changes that could be made this weekend, but I think the season is over. We're pretty comfortable in saying that. Pally says they've recorded a 2-0 against United. I think they'll join us and go level on points with us, so there's that, I guess, to play for. But honestly, yeah, I always want Wolves to win. But I'm not too bothered either way. I think if Gary O'Neill's got plans of who will be here or who won't be here for next season, maybe let's start seeing that. If you think like an Aitnery's not going to be around, or a Gomez or a Neto, for example, I mean, if Neto's one of the ones that are off, his injury record at the moment, I wouldn't even put him on the grass. I wouldn't even risk the 60 million you're going to get for him. I wouldn't bother. So yeah, I think definitely there will be changes. I think this Palace team are a good team under this new new coach. Well, the form's changed, and we'll have to be on it. I think it'll be a really difficult game the weekend.
Yeah, like George said, Sam, it's our final home game as well. So we'll hopefully end the season at Molineux on a high. We've got some good players really kicking on. Adam Wharton is one they went for. We were linked with him in the summer, and he's turned out to be an unbelievable piece of business so far for Palace. But other players like Mateto, I think, scored tonight. He's hit a bit of form, so it's not going to be an easy game, is it? For Wolves, it's going to be another interesting task on Saturday.
Yeah, and Mateta's another kind of big striker I think he's scored in his 6. I think I've just seen it. He's scored in his 6 home games in a row for Glasgow, so he's really hit a hot streak. Elise looks brilliant again. Eze, you've always got to be careful of. I'm not sure whether he's fit or anything, but these are just all the talented players that they've got. Wharton, like you said, really, really talented player. I think it will be a similar affair to the Bournemouth game that we lost a few weeks ago. I think it'll be 2 teams that can play decent football, and they'll kind of cancel each other out, and it will be a case of who scores the shittest goal first. To be fair, and who's first to make a mistake. So yeah, I think it'll be tough. I'm not going in there thinking that we're going to breeze it. I also don't think going in there thinking we're going to win. I think a draw would be a good result, and I think I'd take a draw at this point in the season. I'm not, providing we couldn't get to the end of the season with no significant injuries. There's not much to play for. It's all a bit dead rubber, to be honest. It's just kind of the enjoyment's gone, the thrill's gone. There's nothing really to play for since we dropped off. So yeah, it's just a matter of see how it goes. But no, I can't say I'm looking forward to it at all.
Yeah, I think although it's always frustrating when the season ends, I think there'll be a lot of Wolves fans that are sort of quietly pleased that the season is sort of done. Pretty much in the next couple of weeks or so, and it's the final time they have to go to Molineux this season, because I think we are all excited. It's been a productive season, don't get me wrong, but I think everyone's ready for get that rest, start a new chapter again next season, hopefully a productive summer, and we'll see what happens, because the season has been frustrating with VAR and stuff as well, so we're hoping that in that, and fingers crossed, we do end on a high, albeit against a team in Crystal Palace that are in top form at the moment. We will jump on to the questions and stuff shortly, but there's a couple of little topics we'll jump on first. Former Wolves head coach Jord and Lopetegui set to replace David Moyes at West Ham United for next season. We'll get your thoughts on this, lads, as well. But Lopetegui obviously left Wolves right at the start of this campaign. I think West Ham was always the job he probably had his eye on, although he has been offered and maybe close to other jobs since then. AC Milan was one that he was close with, and they pulled out due to pressure from the fans. He got offered big money to go to Saudi Arabia, which he turned down. So I think for some reason he does think he's got some sort of unfinished business in the Premier League, and he would have had an eye on West Ham from the start of the season because David Moyes' position has never been 100%. Jord, what's your thoughts on this? What sort of reception does he get? Do we care that Lopetegui is moving to a Premier League rival as such?
I think I'll always be grateful for the fact that he kept us up last season. I feel that between a lot of what's going on social media and sort of how he left the club and all that sort of stuff, I think we forget where we were and the job he did. I think he's got to be applauded for that. We were rock bottom. Sometimes football wasn't that pretty, but he came in, served a purpose, got us over the line. I mean, he was probably in the decision making to bring people like Lamina, João Gomez, Cunha to the club. So he's got an eye for a player as well. I know there'll be Hobbs and other people behind the scenes that have done that as well. But Lopetegui would have had a say in that as well. So I feel for that sort of things, for that side of it, I think you've got to be grateful. What you're not grateful for, or what I'm not grateful for, is obviously the way he left the club, leaving on the eve of the season. Falling out. Foden, whether it's him, Foden. I mean, we know that Foden, and I'm not the biggest fan of Foden on the whole, although I think they've done some good things. I think Lopetegui walking out how he did was wrong. I think the interview he did with Gillian Balagay, was that on the pre-season tour? That
Yeah, in their complex. Yeah,
that was like on the air, again the eve of the season. Poor. The fact that Balagay is still twerking for him every fucking night on Twitter pisses me off. Honestly, I'm just glad now that he'll stop talking about us and it'll be West Ham fans. But honestly, the amount of tweets he's done about Lopetegui is embarrassing. He thinks he's on the payroll, or at least he's sucking his dick or something. You know what I mean? It's so bad.
Who knows?
I don't know what's going on. It's so. I don't get it. He's like a thirsty ex after some money. I don't get what it's about. So yeah, look, I haven't got ill feeling towards Lopetegui in the way of I won't boo him if you come to Molyneux. I feel like you got to take the 6 months he was here for what it was. I think he did a good job in that 6 months. How he left, poor. But I've seen people comparing it to Nunes and all that sort of stuff. Look, I'm not as heated about him leaving as how Mateus Nunes did, for example. But yeah, I certainly wouldn't give him a clap. I wouldn't boo him. I'd just be like, well, he's just another guy in the dugout. And yeah, I think he's been twerking for a Premier League job all year. I think it'd be very funny for him to go into West Ham thinking he's going to call all the shots when they've got their ownership who are very frugal. He ain't going to call all the shots there. There's no way that's going to happen there. And I think actually it's quite a difficult task following David Moyes. And I know there's a lot of West Ham fans who want Moyes out. I can't. For me, looking outside in, I don't really see why. What he's done. I think it'd be very difficult for him to repeat the successes David Moyes has had with that European trophy. And I don't actually know where West Ham feel they should be. I think maybe if outside they're looking at someone like Aston Villa or Broken or Newcastle, whatever. No divine right, you're going to go and do that yourselves. And I think West Ham are. Yes, they've got the recent success on us from that European trophy, but I don't see West Ham as a bigger club than us in stature. So I think West Ham finishing in and around the top 10 is a good season for West Ham. Like we would see it as a good season for us. I don't see West Ham have a higher ceiling as us, for example. I think we've got the same ceiling. We might get 7th. You could possibly get 6th if you're lucky. If a few of the traditional top 6 have a bad year, but I can't see him breaking into Champions League football or anything like that.
No, it'll be interesting. A really interesting task. I think you're right with that. You're not going to applaud him, but you're not necessarily going to boo him because you can appreciate the job that he's done here. I'm not 100% a big fan of how he left the club and the situation, but I think it's always going to be Chinese whispers. You don't know what was said between him and the club. Interesting though, Sammy's finally got the chance to manage Mikel Antonio and Aaron Creswell, who reportedly was so desperate to manage at the Wolves. But yeah, it will be interesting. What are the odds, you reckon, that we play West Ham within our first 3 games? You remember when Nuno left? Well, we played Spurs early doors and we got them in the Cup straight after. Nuno returned to Molyneux twice in the first month and a half. But what are your thoughts on it?
Similar kind of sentiment to Jord, to be fair. I think thankful again for what he did, but like George said, it was a poor way to go out. It was petulant for a guy his age and a guy of his supposed stature. It was petulant, and I think he could have walked out, or at least, he could have walked out on much better terms than he did. I think he made a toxic situation at the time even more toxic. He just added fuel to a fire. The interview at the training ground during pre-season was horrendous. Inviting your best mate to come on, interview you, with this and with the shittest audio quality as well. It was like horrendous to listen to. So you could have to barely work out what they were saying, which made it worse. It was. Yeah, this is what he wanted. That's now what he's got. It's just a test now. I think, like George said, West Ham are hugely. Their fans in particular are hugely entitled. Now I know their football was shocking, but so was ours under Lopetegui for a while. But if it gets you results, and if your results is a European trophy, no matter if it's seen as a Mickey Mouse one or not, it's a European trophy. Got you into the Europa League. You did well in the Europa League, to be fair, as well. And I know the football isn't great, but he also, this season in particular, and I saw his press conference today, he said, why are you shipping so many goals? Declan Rice, they lost £120 million worth of midfielder in one player. That's a huge loss. So, it was always going to be more difficult for them. And I don't think their squad is very good at all. I think they've got a couple of talented players. I think Bowen's great. I think Kudus is great. Paqueta's obviously world-class on his day. But aside from that, I don't think their defence is particularly inspiring. And I think we've got a better squad than them, and we have more to moan about, really. And yet we don't, because we're not an entitled fan base as such. Well, I don't think we are anyway. I think a lot of our fans are pretty content with the situation that we've got. I think a lot of us sitting here, we were pushing for Europe at 7th, 8th at some point this season. We could finish 13th or 14th by the end of this and we'd still be all right with it.
Yeah.
Because of the situation was so bleak at the start of the season. Whereas West Ham, your football's rubbish, but you've been comfortably 7th or 8th virtually all season. I don't really understand it, but, part of me wishes it goes tits up from the get-go. One, because I don't have any ill feeling really towards Lopetegui despite his petulance, but it would be funny to see him go, see that go up in flames and West Ham plummet down to the bottom and see if he can drag them up from 20th and see what they can do there. But it's we'll see. It should be entertaining. I think there will be a portion of our fan base that goes for his head from the get-go, but I don't see it, like you said, in the same vein as Nunez in whatsoever.
Yeah, I think as well though with West Ham. Sorry, Dave. I was going to say West Ham hiring Lopetegui on the basis of Moyes' football not being the most attractive. Lopetegui's not going to get you playing attractive football.
No, he's not some hip European. He's got European pedigree as such, but he's not got an attractive brand of football. Now, whether that's the resources or not, but like I said, we had better resources. He had Matinho, he had Neves, he had Nunez, and he made us look like shit. So, what's he going to do? What's he going to do with the West Ham squad? I don't know. It'd be intriguing to see whether he changes his tactics or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, I'd be intrigued. I think by what you were saying there, Sam, part of me is I don't want to see anyone fail in life, of course not. But at the same time, if he did, he sort of proves like, mate, the grass isn't always greener. You look at the job that Gary O'Neill's done. Imagine if Lopetegui carried on with his pre-season, waited a couple of more weeks, and got the players that Gary O'Neill has got, or at least the funds that Gary O'Neill had, and moulded a squad together. We could have been maybe talking about being a slightly higher up in the table potentially, but. I am intrigued to see how he gets on. But with the West Ham thing, I think, yes, I are entitled to a degree, but I think what Moyes has done, and this is credit to Moyes, he set a standard there that, I've come in, I can get us to finish around 6th to 8th every season. It happened with us and Nuno. He got 7th and 7th, and then we dropped off, and all of a sudden fans went mad because that's all we're used to. We've been in the Premier League 2 years, and we've hit 7th twice. Why are we 12th at the moment? And then that's why I think things turned a little bit sour under Nuno as well. But it will, because Lopetegui, if he doesn't hit the ground, say for argument's sake they finish 7th again this season. I don't know the exact point tally. If they finish 7th or 8th, if they're halfway through the season next year in 14th, 15th, because he's not got them going yet, he'll be under massive pressure straight away.
They'll flip like a lid, yeah. They'll flip like a lid.
Jord, interesting question. If for whatever reason Gary O'Neill decides to move on from Wolves, would you take David Moyes at Molineux?
In a heartbeat.
Ooh,
what about you, sir?
That does surprise me, actually. I wouldn't. No, I think because I don't know whether it is. I think my age comes into it. To be fair, like I'm 22, and just from Nuno onwards, I've seen the Lambert era, and I've seen the Dean Saunders era. I've seen some shit football, but at the same time, I've come to know good football when I see it. And I think, as much as David Moyes, I think it is a slightly outdated brand of football. And if I'm paying the money I'm paying, despite the success, and I know it contradicts what I'm saying, but I'd like to see a bit of both. You know what I mean? But yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure I would. I'd have to think about it. But I'll let George say his piece because he actually would. So.
No, I don't disagree with what you're saying there with the brand of football and stuff. But I actually think that Man United would have won a Premier League title had they stuck with Moyes when they did. When they got rid of him. No, I think Man United's been a mess for many years, and I think he went to West Ham. And he did a good job. I think he kept him up. Then he went in it. He had a decent ride at I think he did a decent enough job again with the backs against the wall at Sunderland. I think he's a very underrated manager, and I think longevity with Everton, punching above his weight for many years. I agree. He's an older manager. He might be the football slightly is outdated, but I mean, I just think, as a manager and a coach, he's done good things. He's got a pedigree. He's got a proven track record, and it's not as dinosaur-y football as a Pulis or an Allardyce as such. It is a bit more progressive than that. And I do think you could do a lot worse than David Moyes should Gary O'Neill go. I think he'd be a safe pair of hands.
And it is Premier League pedigree as well. To be fair to him, it's not like he's had pedigree in other leagues, and like Lopetegui, for example. He has been, his job with Everton was immaculate. Like, I think he did brilliantly with Everton. Like you said, West Ham, I think they're pretty ungrateful, to be fair, for what he has done. Like, if any manager won a European trophy in my lifetime at Wolves, I'd, build him a statue. I mean, we joked about it with Nuno, didn't we? And he didn't even come close, to be fair to him. We got to the quarterfinals and shit ourselves. So, I can't argue with him, to be fair.
No. Interesting. If anyone's listening on you or watching on YouTube, let us know your thoughts on David Moyes potentially. I think Matt said he'd take him. Did he, George? We had this conversation a couple of weeks ago.
I think he did, yeah, but I don't think it was, And again, I feel like before I get quote tweeted or someone starts saying shit, like I'm not saying oh my god, David Moyes,
what Gary O'Neill
candidate
was.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't do that. I'm just saying, but I do think if O'Neill went on to pastures new, 100%, I'd take David Moyes. And actually, Lopetegui going to West Ham's probably done us a favour with the O'Neill thing as well, right? Because I thought that was the only one I was worried about, the West Ham job, and O'Neill having interest there. But now Lopetegui's gone there, I don't necessarily see
anywhere else.
Anyone coming in. I can't see where he'll go really in the Premier League, unless he got offered the England job. But again, I don't think he'll get that. I think it's too soon for him as well on that sort of front. But time will tell.
How will get that before O'Neill will.
If Southgate goes, wouldn't you reckon Potter maybe?
Eddie Howe, yeah. Eddie Howe. It's got Eddie Howe written all over it because Newcastle will want to change soon.
Here's one quickly for you, and this is a complete tangent, completely unrelated. Mourinho, if O'Neill was to go, would you have Mourinho? For Wolves, yeah, for Wolves.
100%. Now that's different.
Yeah, that's different. And they can't tell me Mourinho plays better football.
No, he doesn't. But it's Mourinho.
Yeah, no,
just for the X factor of having Mourinho in the Molineux dugout permanently.
I'd have Mourinho for England as well if Southgate goes in summer.
Yeah,
Mourinho, I'd be all over it.
I absolutely love him.
You only get like 18 to 24 months out of him, but it would be a crazy time. Like, it would be unbelievable.
It'd be so fun.
I think Mourinho tournament football for England would be insane.
There's going to
we'd
be
shit out some results.
some prime Barclays like topics on this because there's some questions with certain players and stuff like that as well, or Cuckoo Land Wolves because half of this stuff is probably never ever going to happen. But, we'll wait and see. Very quickly before we move on to questions, Fabio Silva as well has been a topic of discussion this weekend. Scored for Rangers yesterday. I think they won 4-1 in the end against the 10-man, is it St Johnstone or Kilmarnock?
Kilmarnock.
One of them. 10-man Kilmarnock. Fabio Silva scored the equalising goal, mimicked towards the Rangers fans about them talking about him and kept pointing towards his shirt. Jord, thoughts on the Dons celebration?
I know you love him, mate, but I just think what an egotistical prick for doing it. To be honest with you, I think he's been stinking the gaff up over there. Rangers fans have quite rightly got a bit shirty with him and posted some things about him because they've probably paid, I'd imagine, a good £3-4 million loan fee for him for the 6 months. He's been poor up there, and I think it's distasteful. I think you're playing for the arguably the best team in Scotland against a team with 10 men, and you're doing that and you're shushing the fans. Like, they've given him the opportunity to go and play there, Rangers have, and he's playing for his future, playing for his contract, and he hasn't taken his chance. I think we said about it. It might be on the last part of the pod before, where I said actually the PSV loan he had last January actually helped him and increased his credibility and increased his, I guess, sell on ability for Wolves at that point. He'd come back here, didn't set the world on fire under O'Neill, got up there, stunk it out as well. And the only thing worth £35 million at the moment is his ego for me. I think we need to get shot as quickly as possible because he's got no future here. And he's got no future at Rangers either. So he'll definitely be one of the ones that go in the summer. But if we got 10 million for him, I'd shake your hand now and say 10 million, see you later. Don't let the door at you on the way out. See you later.
I think it's one of those, unfortunately, Sam. And we again, this is a conversation we had last couple of weeks on the pod. Is as a football club, Wolves are still, although we've sort of been in the Premier League for a while, a bit of a mainstay. We've had only the last 6-7 years we started to spend big money as such on players as a club. So you're bound to get errors like this and mistakes like this. And so it's still quite new for Wolves fans to have a big transfer flop, although we have seen a couple of those now since we came up. So I think, unfortunately, George's right. We probably are going to have to cut our losses on Fabio, but he's certainly not helping himself. I suppose if it was a last-minute winner and he scored, and you could say, look at me, you're doubting me, and then I could pop up with these winners. But it's 1-1 on the stroke of half-time, and you're 10 men in a league that, in terms of quality, is not fantastic.
Yeah.
He needs... It's a situation, I think, internally at Wolves, they're going to be really disappointed with that. Have been rumours, and may I stress rumours, that there was a bit of a bust-up with former Wolves player and current Rangers coach Alex Rae after the game, between Alex Rae and Fabio Silva. But Wolves are going to surely be looking to cut their losses and move him on this summer.
Yeah, definitely. Like you said, I was about to say, if he'd have run the length of the pitch and rainbow flicked the keeper, backheeled it over the line, then maybe it
Sounds
might
like me on a
warrant
Sunday.
it might warrant that celebration. But nah, it was, like you said, 10-man Kilmarnock, and all he's done is shrug a shit right back off the ball and slot it home. I was his biggest advocate for a good 2 or 3 years, I'd like to think. My family will vouch for it. I loved him more than anyone, probably more than you, to be fair, but I saw the light earlier than you did. It was just one of those days I was like, this guy is dog mess, like he is rubbish. And just one of those, like you said, 6 or 7 years of big spending, a couple are going to go wrong. Luckily, we're not a huge club, so we don't have it highlighted in our face every week, like with Anthony, for example. But if you think about it, 35 million quid, it's a lot of money
at that time as well.
Yeah, 35 million.
Imagine what we could have bought that.
Yeah, we could have got 3 or 4 based off our recent spending. We could have got 3 or 4 really talented players for that money.
Really good players, yeah.
But our strategy was all over the gaff. So and it's backfired. But yeah, like George said, 10 million, snap your hand off wherever he goes. Could not care less. I mean, I wish him well, but yeah, it's not going to happen with us.
Matt Hobbs would kill for 35 million in his budget right now, mate. He could unearth the next two or
Kill for
three.
£3.50 for
The next Fabio Silva.
Yeah. Look, I don't actually think in terms of his footballing ability, I don't think he's awful. But like you said, it's the ego, it's the antics, it's the drama, it's the fucking rolling around and diving. Like he did it in the Old Firm derby, and he's like just
Yeah.
the biggest talk. Then the miss last week or the week before when he's just like open goal pretty much and falls over the ball. Like if you've got an Old Firm derby and the talking point is you going round rolling on the floor, you probably haven't done the right thing. So it's
his thing on the weekend was on par with Anthony doing the Cup in his ears against Coventry a few weeks back.
Yeah.
And again, if he was playing for a higher profile club, if Fabio Silva was on loan from Man City doing that, he'd have got the same sort of coverage that
he's lucky
Anthony
it was the
got.
SPL.
It's so bad. Yeah.
Because if that was even in the Championship, he'd get absolutely dragged through the ringer for that. But he's lucky because no one watches Scotland apart from Scotland. It's true. It's the truth. Like I'll tune in if it's if it's on Sky, I'll knock it on. Like, but no one's really giving the attention that others would have got had they done that in a more high profile league.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to see. I'm sure that's going to be a story that changes, and we'll have lots of rumours about potentially Fabio Silva's next destination, but you would assume his time at Wolves is very quickly coming to an end. Nice one, lads. We'll move on to the questions now. We've got a few 10, 15 minutes left. One from C Count on Twitter. Any chance we get to see Wesley Okudua? Not least given we have so little remaining to play for. He would become the second youngest ever Premier League player should he make a cameo versus Palace. I think he would become the youngest ever Wolves player to play in a league game as well. Sam, what do you think? I've said this before. I think Matt's sort of against it because he said like you don't want to just bring a player on for the sake of it. But he's been in and around the squad. He played for the 21s again today. What do you think? I mean, City game was one of them. The game's done, but do you want to chuck a kid on at 5-1 down? But maybe if we're in a certain position against Palace and he's in the squad, would you try and get him involved?
The only reason I would is if we're 2-0 up. Reason I say is I've got a couple. If in a game, if you give him minutes and someone like Eze rips him apart on his debut at 15, his confidence will go through the floor. And then he's back in the 21s for months, and you probably won't see him till he's at least 17 or 18. Second reason is I have to remember this now. It will come to me. No, I've lost it. But that's one of them. That's one of them. Yeah. So 15, and then also that was it. You don't want to. We've still got stuff to play for. I mean, I know I've been calling dead rubber, but each place is worth what, £2.5 million there or thereabouts. And I think that the guys upstairs will care that we have a strong finish to the season. I think it will be. I don't know. I think it would be detrimental to our season still if we have this is the game that we can win of the season. I think Liverpool will be up for it big time on the final day. If we're going to get any points for the rest of the season, it's in this game. So I think you got to try and get 3 points because you never know. The teams around us are all over the place as well as we are. We could win, lose, or draw on any day, no matter the opponent. So so United are losing, Palace beat United, Fulham could get points. It's one of those. It could switch and we could end up 11th. You know what I mean? 11th or 10th, even if results go our way. So I think we've got to go for it in this game because I think Liverpool's a write-off already for me. So, I'd go full strength for the last one.
What do you think, Jord? I think we've had a conversation about this before, haven't we? Quite recently.
Yeah, I think for me, it's one of them. We're not a charity case in the way you should be handing out debuts to people willy-nilly. But I think it comes back to if Gary O'Neill sees him as a person who's going to be in and around his plans for the next couple of years, why not give him a little bit of exposure? Now, I also agree with Sam that you don't want to bring him on and him just get torn a new one by Eze or Elise or whatever, and that's the wrong environment to do because it can set you back a little bit. But I do genuinely think that if he's someone that's got potential and you see a bright future for him, why not? I mean, even if it's for a couple minutes at the end, why not? If he's training hard every day and he's showing great things at Compton as well, sometimes it's just a reward as well to bring him on and just say, what, here's a little taste of it. I can remember when Fulham did it when they went down. when Harvey Elliott come on against us, and
Yeah.
was he 15, 16 then?
Yeah, he was
And
on the verge of turning 16, I think. Yeah.
yeah, and look, it's turning all right out for him as well, isn't it now?
Yeah.
And he's still only like 19, 18, 19 now. And I know he's gone to Liverpool and it's not at Fulham now, but it could be that if that's the trajectory, blood him in. Let's just even if he gets one touch of the ball, it's not or just runs on and runs off. It's not the end of the world.
We'll say one
Yeah.
other thing. Why? Who wants to be the second youngest player to ever play in the Prem? If you're going to be the youngest player, you want to be the first, don't you? Like,
but it would be sort of officially the Wolves' youngest.
oh
ever
yeah, the
player.
Wolves one, yeah, for sure. That's fair enough. And I think George's point is massively valid on the point of I think we're a club that do reward. We are a meritocracy. I think we do reward academy products with.
That's
chances.
huge. It's huge. If you've got and we signed. I think there was a 14-year-old lad that I got sent yesterday that Wolves signed from Cambridge, but I think and part of the article on that was that he joined Wolves because his parents could see a clear pathway to first team football at Wolves. And Steve Davies got massive props for that when he had the short spell in charge at Wolves between Lage and Lopetegui. Hugo Bueno got given a chance. I think Joe Hodge got broken to the team. And there were academy players there that were set to sign scholarships that signed them as soon as Steve Davies was sort of in charge of all of that.
Yeah.
And that was because they said, because of him, that's why we're staying at Wolves and that's why we're signing a scholarship here. Because of him, it's clear now that the club are going to give opportunities to these lads. So I think it's a big part of that. And I think Wolves are probably going to start focusing on that a little bit more. I know I tweeted about him yesterday, Mateus Mane, who scored for the under-18s, scored a hat-trick on his under-16s debut. He scored and got an assist at the weekend as well. They signed him from Rochdale.
Good goal,
Brilliant goal. They signed him from Rochdale for, I'm talking hundreds of thousands of pounds, like we're talking 400-500k. And you think at the time for a 16-year-old, flipping that's quite steep. But if he's that good and in 2 or 3 years' time, you could break into the first team at 17, 18. You've got like a 10 million quid player straight away or whatever.
Yeah,
for argument's sake, we're still at top flight. So, and he's classed as homegrown, so it'd be interesting. I think as long as there's a certain pot of money, I don't want to say, right, allocate 10 million a year to just pick out all the best kids in England because it ain't going to happen. But, if you can certainly make money that way. But I very quickly looked as well. It's weird because the official Wolves record is Jimmy Mullen, who's the youngest player, who's 16 years old in 43 days. So if I could do it would be, it makes his debut, would be. But there's a guy that was pre-war, Cameron Buchanan, who was 14 years old and 57 days. But apparently, because it's pre-war, it doesn't class as an official record. So I don't know how that works. But on paper, as an official record, Wesley Okafor it would be the youngest ever player. But
if he does, good luck to him. I'd like to see it because I haven't watched much of him, to be fair. So I don't.
At the age of 15, mate, regardless of whether he gets into the first team, the fact that he's 15 and playing 21s football is unbelievable as well.
Yeah.
Imagine that at that age playing against blokes that are 6 years plus, or if the senior players, there's more.
That sort of age, it's like you remember playing at school. If you played like the year group above or something, like the differences in just physicality is massive.
He's a beast for his age. He's such a beast for a 15-year-old.
You see, sorry, George. Do you see that Italian CDM that we've got, the 6 that was on the bench a couple of games ago on Bournemouth? He's a unit. He is massive, and I think he's only 17.
The lad we've got.
Forget his name. Yeah.
Wolves.
I'll find it. Yeah. I'll find it. Bear with. You carry on and I'll find it. Because I was astounded.
Oh, Temple Ojinaka. Is it?
Yeah. I think he's Italian. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
he's massive. He's like 6'2", 6'3", and he's a unit. Some of them,
they're beasts, yeah. Nah, a lot of them are. The big boys are. Like Fraser Holman, at the time's got a bit of height to him. They're all like well built. So no, look, I think although I watched the 21s game a bit, I wasn't overly convinced by it. But I think in terms of the academy, the under 18s have done very well this season, and that was under new management. I think from this year, Richard Walker. So things are going in the right direction anyway. But let's see. I'll answer this because this guy keeps sending really weird questions, and they're not really questions that I think have a good answer to. So last week, I think he said, would I rather Steve Bruce go to West Brom or Fabio Silva shave his hair? And it doesn't really, I don't get it. But today he said, would you rather West Brom get promoted to the Prem and get Europe or have Steve Bruce as our manager?
First one.
Yeah, West Brom get promoted and
Yeah,
get
first one.
Europe. Same. Yeah. Anyway,
That's quick.
do you think Matt Hobbs could follow Lopetegui to West Ham, Jord?
No,
Sam?
No,
no.
Yeah.
he'll
I
have bigger
think,
ambition than that.
Yeah.
yeah, and
I think he's good enough to go somewhere bigger than that.
and yeah, I sort of alluded to it a couple of weeks ago. I've heard bigger club is interested, depending on other stuff, but can't really talk about it.
He seems pretty settled at Wolves at the moment. We'll see. We'll see. Daniel Plant, the Pogba question. That's all he's put. So we'll quickly touch on this, and I'm sure we'll try and get one or two more questions in before we finish. Paul Pogba, very, very interesting / strange / make of it what you will rumor that dropped yesterday from a Juventus sort of journalist saying that Wolves are keeping tabs on the progress and what's going on with Paul Pogba at the moment. So Pogba, unbelievable, like absolutely unbelievable footballer. Obviously been a little bit unlucky with injuries. Obviously on a huge whack in terms of wage, but he has been banned from football for 4 years for alleged doping, which he believes is completely false, and he's appealing it. But according to this journalist, Wolves are keeping an eye on his situation. Now, to add fuel to the fire, and I don't know if this is what instigated the rumour, to be fair, but to add fuel to the fire on Instagram, which is always the way you can find out transfer news and rumours, Paul Pogba only follows 2 football teams. One is Juventus, and the other, for whatever reason, is Wolverhampton Wanderers. So I'll try and get some more information on this. People have been messaging me about it, and I thought, I don't know, I'd love for it to be true, but 1% of me thinks it's true, and 99 is fairly certain it's a load of bollocks. Jord, Paul Pogba to Wolverhampton Wanderers. What are your thoughts? Would it be a good signing, and do you think it's true?
No, I don't think it's true.
Yeah.
Would it be a good signing? Quite
No, but
probably, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, but yes, because I fear that if he wanted to, I think it's with Paul Pogba. It's always been if he wants to be there and if he's interested. If he's interested, he's an unbelievable footballer. You could tell at spells at Man United he didn't want to be there, but when he played for France, he was so them tournaments. It was
best
he was
midfielder in the
unplayable.
world.
Yeah. He's someone that if he wants to be there and he grabs the game by the scruff of his neck, he plays it at his tempo and he dictates the whole thing. I mean, yes, all day, every day of the week, if he wants to be here, and I've got no sentiment for drug cheats in any sort of sport. So for me, he could rot as it is right now. If he gets proved innocent, and he wants to play football, I'd have him at Wolves in a heartbeat. It could just be that him and Mario Lemina appeared very, very close when at Juventus. It could be that. That could be the link.
Yeah.
I mean,
Just follow Mario though, surely.
Maybe. I mean, look, let's just take that 1% that it could be real. The answer is yes, as long as he gets cleared. I wouldn't want any drug thing above him. Just if he clears his name, I'd have him in a heartbeat.
You know what's going to happen here? Because the same guy posted something about 2 hours later about him, Paul Pogba, being in some sort of, which is weird how he's getting all the intel on Pogba, by the way. But Paul Pogba is going to appear in some new movie that's coming out soon. It's going to, you know what's going to happen? Directed by Wolf Studios. Yeah. Sam, what do you think? I mean, like I said, we can all live in cuckoo land and can dream.
Yep.
If tomorrow it broke that. Tomorrow we get one of these this summer though, don't we? We had the Renato Sanchez a couple of years ago. We've got to have at least one.
Pogba and Sanchez you cannot put on the same pedestal. Look, I did some. I looked into it a slight bit, but just for out of curiosity, I think Wolves have just under 3 million followers. Pogba has 62. Like that is an insane. Like, and when you talk about million, that is
just 62 followers.
But I think we talk about it a lot. Like when we had Nunes, it's a very, very big struggle, and it rubs fans the wrong way when you've got a player who thinks he's bigger than the club. And if Pogba came in, he would be bigger than the club, not in our view, but in his view. And I think that is something that you'd have to contend with for the period that he'd be here in a hypothetical cuckoo land, if we're talking about it. I think it's more than 1%. I think that, I once said there's no smoke without fire. I'd put it at 4 or 5% purely because of the Instagram thing. Like, that even weird. Out of all the football clubs he could follow, it could be United, could be Madrid, who he'd want
Doesn't
to
even
go
follow
to. Maybe.
Madrid. I mean United. I don't think he doesn't even
I
follow
know
United.
he doesn't.
Yeah.
He doesn't, and it's like, whether it is the Lamina thing, that could be a factor. I think we've got a lot of Muslim players as well. I think plays a part in it. We've got a lot of Muslim players, and he's obviously one himself. And it could be a fellow kind of practicing thing, like between him and Lamina. They probably are just good mates. But yeah, it's a really interesting one. I'd love him. I'd absolutely love him, because I think when he's on his pomp, like, he is the most entertaining player to watch that there's around at the moment. But like George said, doping in any sport is the scum of the scum. If with Pogba's ability, if you need that advantage, then you've got no hope. So yeah, I'd love it, but no way in hell it's true.
Can I add a bit more fuel to the fire, just so we can
Here we go.
pretend it's happening?
Russell exclusive.
Like, I always remember like the Warnock stuff when he was talking about Adel Tarat, and it's just like, you just do in there half the pitch, just go and do what you're doing there. And that QPR team, at one point, there was obviously Sean Derry and Gary O'Neill, who would have been the dog runners to let Tarat just go and do what he's doing up the other end of the pitch. So I'm just saying, in hypothetical terms, like,
part of the
that
contract
as well could be the thing. But you know what?
Do whatever you want.
Yeah, you just go up there. Like, you could win games on your own, and we'll put like some battlers behind you. We're just going to do your dog work for you, and you just go and win us football matches. And that's from their philosophy. Well, that's how Derry and O'Neill have been brought up in terms of being around Warnock, and how these sort of teams have been built. They'd do the dog's work and let the more technically gifted players go and just further up the pitch and do the magic. Even O'Neill, when he's at Pompey, would have been exactly the same. Those sort of teams, your Cranshaws,
build around one player.
Build around that player, and you just go and do that. So if you can put a solid foundation behind them,
Lamina and Gomez run for days anyway. So if they had Pogba in front of them, I don't think they cared. You know what I mean? Like, I think they'd be happy to do it. I'd hope so anyway.
There'd be some midfield as well. That would, by the way.
No negative comments in the comment section about this Pogba deal. We've all got manifest that it's happening, although I will try and find out for sure. But oh my god,
good fun to talk about.
You lot have convinced me that it's happening now. So
4%, mate. I do.
We'll finish off with his weekly question, Amal's Music Show. A lot of us seem to think that if Gary O'Neill leaves us anytime soon, then Rob Edwards would end up being our next manager. If Luton get relegated, do you still think he'd be spoken about as the next Wolves manager, or is that conditional on him keeping Luton in the Premier League? Again, George, this is something we seem to talk about every week, but do you think Luton's Premier League status and Rob Edwards potentially joining Wolves go together? Or I think either way, I think even if he goes down, he'd be considered if it was this summer, for argument's sake.
Yeah, I do as well. I think there's a lot of merit in what he actually did last season to get Luton in the Premier League, full stop, with that squad. And you know what? I think I thought they'd come rock bottom, and probably a lot of people did. And I think around November to January time, he got them really punching, and they were giving everyone a good go. And they were really, they had everyone on song, they had everyone fit, and they were giving teams a game. Now, they've had a few injuries. It's killed them. And as much as I'd love them to stay up, I think that Forest win on the weekend, it's killed them. I think they needed to beat Everton on Friday night to stay up. So, no, I don't think it goes hand in hand. I think he's done a good job. I think it's very hard to sort of work out where he is, Rob Edwards, in terms of his managerial credibility, because I think he did a very good job at Forest Green Rovers. That was obviously League 2, and he got them up to League 1, didn't he? I believe, and then he left. Took the Watford job. Watford's batshit crazy. I wouldn't take anything they did there with any sort of, with any sort of credence, really. And actually, the job he's done at Luton's fantastic. So I do think it's an obvious one for us as well. If Gary O'Neill gone over, we talk about Moyes coming in, or Mourinho or whatever. I think Rob Edwards would be Bookie's favourite. If no O'Neill left tomorrow, I think Rob Edwards would be the Bookie's favourite. They like him internally. I think they've openly said that a few times.
Did they interview him out of interest?
Yeah. I think they did, didn't they? Dave, you got on mute, mate. You can't hear.
Sorry, I was going to say, I don't think they interviewed him for the main job as such at the time, but before Lopetegui, they looked at
They
him as
interviewed him then.
potentially
Okay.
leave the coaching side of things. Yeah,
Yeah.
but
Right. Okay.
Because that was when Lopetegui said no first time, wasn't it?
that
And
was
they
when
had
he
that
was in
little.
between jobs as well, Rob
That's
Edwards,
when
I
it.
think. Yeah.
Yeah. He just left Watford, hadn't he, at that point? And I think it was to come in and do the caretaker thing, but yeah, he didn't want to do a caretaker role. He wanted a more permanent role. And I'm saying this like I got told it's what Dave told me. So sorry, Dave, talking for you. But that was the story. And yeah, I don't know if there's anything else to add on there, but he did definitely interview that little thing.
Yeah, no, it'll be interesting. I think. I mean, like I said, we spoke a lot about if buts and what happens if. But for what it's worth, we're not. I don't think we're advocates of Gary O'Neill moving on this summer. We're just talking
No, we're not.
in cuckoo land about Mourinho and Moyes, and then probably the
Pogba.
more
Pogba.
sensible, and a more sensible land about Rob Edwards. But yeah, guys, I've enjoyed that. I mean, obviously got the bad stuff of Manchester City out of the way, and then we've sort of gone on to a more enjoyable and potentially insightful and opinionated podcast anyway. But enjoyed it as always. Sam Beacon, thanks for joining us once again, mate. Where can people find you if they wish?
Yeah, thanks very much. On Twitter at Beacon WWFC, so it's BEEKEN WWFC. Thank you very much.
Thank you, mate. Hopefully we'll have you on again soon to get the hat-trick ball. Jord
Absolutely.
Russell, where can people find you, buddy?
At Jord was 7 on Twitter and Instagram, and probably on a golf course rather than Molyneux on Saturday.
Likewise.
Brilliant, enjoy it. I'm at David's Party or everywhere. I'm not going to be on next week's pod because I'm on a stag do, but I think Matt and the boys should be around, so there should be a podcast as normal next week, and then we'll move on to fingers crossed a special podcast for the end of season do, which I'm sure we'll get sorted ASAP as well. Before I forget, one of our close subscribers as well, Dean, is doing a bit of fundraising for the Mine charity as part of the Molyneux match as well, and you can have your chance to win. I think it's a football raffle for some Predators, I think. Yeah, Adidas Predators. So if you want to get involved in that, I'll leave a link in the description of the pod and you can get involved for your chance to win these beautiful football boots. As always, we're talking Wolves everywhere. If you want the latest Wolves news, transfer news and gossip, follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and obviously subscribe to us here on YouTube. Leave us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts and Spotify if you're listening on there. And until next time, fingers crossed it's 3 points against Crystal Palace. Enjoy your week, and we'll catch you all very, very soon.